Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of this virtual console discussion. In this segment, we talk about the top 5 consoles we want to see on Nintendo's virtual console service. So without further ado, please enjoy the rest of this discussion. But I guess we can get into the part of the discussion where we discuss maybe our top 5 systems that we want.
Ooh, this is gonna be good because I have... Well, to start off with, I'm gonna say that the number one system that should come to the virtual console is the...
Wait, let's just do 5 to 1.
Darn it, I want to say Gamecube, but I'm joking about that.
Oh.
Gamecube sucks.
Oh, I was hoping for Atari 5200 because it would actually have a controller that works.
But yeah, let's get into the top 5. I have a few interesting systems that I think the listeners would enjoy hearing about.
Right, I think the number 5 for me, and no, this is actually not a joke, the Atari 5200. There's actually some really good ports that are on that system. I know Miss Pac-Man actually had a really good port. They upgraded a lot of the assets, and there's just, from what I heard, there's a lot of games that you can enjoy, but the main reason why, again, I would want to try it is because I could actually go up to a retro collector and say, hey, look, I have games that can work with a functioning controller. You know, that might seem like a joke, but that's really the only way without getting like a computerized version of the Atari 5200, because there's a lot of computers Atari made that have a similar architecture to the 5200, because the architecture started out in PCs. So essentially, I would love to see those games come to the virtual console just for, you know, retro collectors or enthusiasts like me to enjoy. And it would just be nice to have, like, Miss Pac-Man with a Pro Controller that won't have, like, a busted joystick or just you have to beat on it in order for it to work. So, yeah.
Yeah, the Atari systems, I think they're kind of mixed bag because they're American and most systems on the virtual console are Japanese in origin. But there is one Japanese-only system I'd love to see on the virtual console, even if it's Japan-only because you can import with the Switch easily. SG-1000 from Sega.
Oh yeah, that console is interesting. I think it was the precursor to the Master System.
It was the very first system Sega made, and to my knowledge, they don't really re-release much games from it. In fact, I think the only SG-1000 game to be re-released, like by M2, was Girls' Garden for 3D Classics Final Stage in the 3DS. So they have an emulator working on the 3DS, but of course that's almost dead. But I think releasing some SG-1000 games would be interesting because, even though they're old and dated, I think it'd be an interesting piece of history for Sega fans to see where Sega began. Because while people fantasize about the Saturn and Dreamcast systems that are too complicated for modern systems to handle, at least the Saturn, I think going back to the SG-1000 would be a good, first step towards more Sega history.
Right. As far as I know, too, the Master System in Japan, which I think was the Sega, SG-3000 or...
Mark III.
Mark III, yep, the Mark III. It's been a while, but yeah, the Mark III I think also had backwards compatibility with the SG-1000.
Yeah, it had them in the form of card games, and I think to my knowledge only one of those SG-1000 games got localized as F-16 Fighting Falcon. And that game's notorious for breaking any Sega, not literally, but doesn't work in Sega Genesises with power-based converters because there isn't an SG-1000 chip in that thing.
Right.
If you put Fighting Falcon in the Sega Genesis, turn it on, it'll just crash at the tile screen and display nothing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there was only Sega Master System hardware in the original Sega Genesis, so that's why you couldn't get those games working. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting console, and especially if Master System emulation starts working on the Switch, I think it would be an easy system to get working. And considering the graphical fidelity, the Switch would take it easily.
Well, definitely. In fact, I think even the DS could probably handle the SG-1000.
Right. I would actually highly agree with that. Number 4 on my list. It's really interesting because I think to me, this console would be pretty neat, but I'm gonna go with the Colecovision.
Ooh. Well, the Colecovision is actually never one I was hoping for. I remember asking I asked Coleco Holdings on Twitter years ago when the Wii U was new, about if they could port some of those old Coleco games, because they have the rights to them, to the Virtual Console, put them in the collection, like someone else did with the Atari games and the PS4 and Xbox One, and they say they love to, but they are focused on the flashback systems.
I know there was a news article. I don't know if it was about that tweet, but I know they said that they would consider adding it. Like they would want to talk to Nintendo about it. But honestly, I just want to that to come to Switch, because there's that would be the definitive way to experience Donkey Kong, because actually it's the only consoleized version that I think we know of that has the Pie Factory levels. And
Donkey Kong Original Edition, which is kind of a game? I don't know. I'd say we'd ask for Donkey Kong on Arcade Archives exclusive to Switch, but Ishigami, I have to look up the full name, but some contractor Nintendo worked with made the code for Donkey Kong, and Nintendo allegedly stole it, and so they can't re-release the original Donkey Kong. They have to edit the code and rework it from the ground up, so that's why they keep releasing the NES version over and over and over again, and that's why Donkey Kong 64's version of Donkey Kong was edited.
Mm-hmm. So, that's why, that would probably be the easiest way to get the, I would say, quote-unquote, the original version, is to put the Colecovision version out there. It wouldn't be the original necessarily, but it'd be close to it at least.
And there's also, it's not the ColecoVision. The Coleco Adam had a Donkey Kong Jr. port that had a 5th stage exclusive to that version. There was some weird, not Pie Factory, but some weird factory or things from the ceiling, crushers would crush Donkey Kong Jr. and flatten him into a pancake if he got stuck, and you had to climb to the top. It was a simple stage, and it was a computer cheat code. It required a cheat code to access, but it was a really weird stage, and I think, even though it's unlikely as heck because the Coleco Adam was notorious for breaking down, I think seeing that version of Donkey Kong Jr., or at least that stage remade somehow, would be interesting.
It would be interesting, because it's cool seeing developers hiding secrets that you don't really see till 25 years later, or is exclusive to one version. I think that'd be really cool seeing that stage revived in some form, and that would definitely be a way to give it to the Nintendo Switch crowd by adding it to the Virtual Console. But yeah, the ColecoVision is my choice right there.
So number 4 or number 3 for me? I forgot.
It would be number 4, I think, for you.
Okay, in that case, I'm going to go with the PC-88 computer from NEC, a Japan-only computer that basically was the birthplace of RPGs from Falcom. They released the Dragon Slayer games on it, they released Ys on it, and a lot of Japanese arcade ports were on it, but they were notorious for being bad. But the main reason I want the PC-88 is because a lot of RPGs and puzzle games were on that thing, and I know a lot of Japanese players remember it fondly, especially for Ys.
That's actually a system that, to me, is obscure, but I partially know about it because I watch a lot of Pat the NES Punk. Shoutouts to him, by the way. But yeah, that system would definitely be interesting. I'm not an RPG person by any means, but I think I think that would actually be a strength of the Virtual Console, is getting a lot of obscure consoles out of Japan and bringing them to the West and saying, hey, there are these games that you might not know exist, but they're damn good, or they're amazing. I think that would be a good way to get a lot of money and just expose a lot. That's the whole point of the Virtual Console, is to expose people to games that they might have grew up with or their children might have never played. It's a chance to re-experience them or experience them for the first time.
Also on a tie, because it's made by, not the same company, but it's the same thing essentially. The Sharp X68000 on the same spot of source, because it's also a Japanese-only home computer with a lot of RPGs like Ys and Dragon Slayer. But unlike the PC-88, it had good arcade ports. In fact, they were considered to be arcade perfect before the Saturn and PlayStation could emulate them properly. And in Japan, it's very popular because a lot of people love those arcade ports, but it was insanely expensive, the Neo Geo levels of pricing.
I know, I think for that, they could just go the Neo Geo route and just start, remastering them. I think that would be a really good way to get people more interested.
Yeah, especially those arcade games, they could add online leaderboards. But then again, since Hamster, and I think that's a dumb name by the way, since they're making Arcade Archives games, it might just be better for them to release arcade versions. Because I think Space Harrier is the only arcade port to the X68000 that actually adds stuff. It doubles the game's length by 2, adds in the Master System exclusive final boss, gives it a 16-bit makeover, and basically is the definitive version of the game. And it's never been re-released. It's a crime.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, that's insane. I like games that tend to like you'll find like games that you didn't know on other consoles and they turn out to have like superiorly like better content. Like they were I think one famous example is Mega Man The Wily Wars for the Sega Genesis, because
oh yeah, the Sega Channel locked that game from the Americas, because once the Sega Channel died, it died too. But it was in Europe, so we got an English version that was available. But yeah, they could easily release that as an import on the Virtual Console if they had Genesis games. That's not on my list, but if Genesis games got re-released and Capcom could put third-party games out, I'd love to see Wily Wars, because that's easy to re-release.
Right, I mean, that's probably one of my favorite examples, because it's a game that, oh my gosh, Capcom made a Mega Man game that is not on a Nintendo platform. And this was before, of course, they went all PlayStation, just like Square Enix. But basically, it was a compilation of Mega Man 1, 2, and 3. It was kind of like the Super Mario All-Stars version of Mega Man. And it adds, like, I think, it's basically, I wouldn't call it a port. It's actually a full-blown remake, in my opinion. I mean, it has updated graphics, adds new content. I mean, there's some slowdowns here and there, but
the music did take a hit in quality, but the Wily Tower exclusive stages are amazing. The music is amazing, those stages. The only fault with the compilation I see is that because it's Japanese-based, they cut out normal mode from Mega Man 2, which means that Mega Man 2's, well, not notorious, because most people love it but me, but Mega Man 2's, well, cheap difficulty is back in full force, and that means that stupid boobing trap is a hellish nightmare to fight, and there's no easy mode to make it easier.
Right, that is one of my complaints. I have my Super Famicom right here, and I have the Retro Gen adapted by Retrobit, and I've been playing this game with a Super Nintendo controller, and I will say it's a lot better than using the Sega Genesis controller, but the game's still hard because they got rid of that difficulty option. I mean, I've played the Petit Computer Mega Man 2 remake, and that's pretty much a mirror image of the NES version, and essentially there was a huge spike in difficulty. Like I was flying through levels and the Petit Computer / NES version, and then when I go onto the Sega Genesis version of Mega Man 2, it's just like, holy crap, I need to get adjusted to all these, multi-hit, enemies, and I mean, there's some stuff in there that kind of makes me crowd bullshit, but it's still, once you get used to it, it's actually really fun going in. I basically had to get adjusted the first couple levels, and then you just start kind of getting in the groove of things, and it's not that bad after you fully immerse yourself. But yeah, I can see what you're talking about. The difficulty spike was kind of mixed, and that's actually, I mean, ironically, this system was my number 3, the Sega Genesis. We segued into it, but
I guess I predicted the future to an extent.
Yes, you did. You're an oracle. Congratulations. Yeah, the Sega Genesis, I think, is a system that I really, really want to see on the Virtual Console, because there's just, it's that console where, to me, there's a lot of obscure gems on that system, and people don't hate me for saying that. I don't mean it in that way that like the system's obscure. The system sold a lot. It's really well known. But to me, like, there's just a lot of really good and valuable games. I mean, Sega used to be top notch, and they, alongside Nintendo, used to have valuable IPs. And I mean, seeing those being re-released on the Wii Virtual Console was nice, and I was really confused why they weren't re-released on the Wii U Virtual Console. Although it was kind of nice seeing the M2 3D Classic games being released on the 3DS, so at least it kind of tied us over for that, but I'm really hoping the Sega Genesis Virtual Console comes in full swing.
Yeah, speaking of which, I remember being I was actually the guy who messaged Okunari with my. That was why I made my Twitter account when I was PBZ reviews. I messaged Okunari and asked for Wii U Sega games because I was like, hey, where's my Master System games? I love the Master System. And they were like, there was no plans. And then the internet went in an uproar. And they were like, we want Sega games. And then they released Sega games, but the Game Boy Advance lineup, and only in Japan. I think that's because of THQ though, because THQ basically took Sega's library and re-released it in the States and Europe, which means since they died and THQ is kind of dead, though Nordic is revived the brand, I don't think they could re-release the English versions of those games anymore.
Yup, that's probably the reason why. I mean, when THQ went on business, they sold each individual part of their assets. So, I mean, it's definitely interesting. But yeah, I really hope that if the Switch, I mean, the Switch has been showing a lot of success, but I'm hoping if it continues this trend, then a lot of third parties will be on board re-releasing their games. And just imagine like seeing some Sega Genesis games with online play. I mean, they did that for select Wii Virtual Console titles, I remember.
They did that for 2. They did it for not Ultra, that game's new. Super Street Fighter 2, the new challengers for Genesis. On M2 did that, and M2 also did Puyo for the arcade, and they add online to that.
Which...
And they also did for the second game, I think, the arcade version. I don't know if that came out, though.
Right. It was definitely interesting, but I think if they added online play to a lot of the other Sega Genesis games, that would be amazing. I mean, of course, it's going to be awesome in general, but seeing that for some of the games that Sega has released, especially the ones that are they have a lot of multiplayer heavy games on the Sega Genesis, I think a lot of arcade beat 'em ups. I mean, just imagine seeing I can't remember the game, but Streets of Rage online. Like, just imagine that game online.
I think M2 already did that for the Xbox Streets of Rage collection, and they also did online leaderboards on the PS3 and Xbox 360. They add online leaderboards, challenges, and multiplayer to all sorts of Genesis games called the Sega Vintage Collection. They also did it with Gunstar Heroes, though I think that was made by a different company in the Americas, that port. And those games were very good. Even today, they're still fun to play online on the PS3. So I think that online Genesis games could be fun, but I think online Master System games would be better because Master System games have barely been re-released. Even on the Wii, we only got like Sonic and a few mediocre games and Alex Kidd, not even all of them.
Right, that's understandable. I mean, is that your number 3, or is that...
Actually, hold on a second, I gotta stand up, my pants are sticking, I'm gonna cut this out, of course. Just stand up and dry off. It's kind of hot in my bedroom. But anyways, yeah, my number 3 pick for my system I want to see is the Neo Geo Pocket Color. Ooh. Because, you see, I may hate the Neo Geo AES and MVS because there's a gazillion Street Fighter 2 ripoffs. And yes, I know people in the comments are probably gonna go, oh, well, Gero Mark of the Wolves has this super complex fighting system. Yeah, I know Gero's a great game, but what about World Heroes? That game aged like milk. But the Neo Geo Pocket Color, despite having some games like King of Fighters and stuff on it, most of the ports or games on it were built from the ground up because, of course, they can't handle arcade games. But like Metal Slug First Mission and Second Mission, I think those are games I want to play. And they also released Sonic Pocket Adventure on that.
Right, it's like one of the obscure Sonic titles that Sega released during the Dreamcast era onto another platform.
Not to mention, they also had Puyo on that, but I think that was Compile who released it. And they had Pac-Man and a few other games. But basically, the Neo Geo Pocket Color had lots of games that weren't fighting games. And this was during the time where SNK was mad about cashing in on Street Fighter 3, so they made Garou and King of Fighters. But they did die down with the more knockoff and cloney games like Art of Fighting and World Heroes and the old Fatal Furies. Because Garou is a Fatal Fury game, but it's pretty much, it's so good from what everyone else says. I haven't played it yet, so I'm not going to judge it that much. but everyone else says it's so good, that's why it's its own series of one game. And The Last Blade, but I think that game's actually mediocre. That one I did play.
Right. Anyways, let's get to my number 2. This should be pretty interesting. My number 2, it's going through my head just a little bit because I'm going back through my childhood and I'm thinking, okay, a lot of the systems I played weren't exactly systems I probably think won't appear on the Virtual Console. Like I played a lot of like PS1, PS2. I was a Sony guy back in the day, but you know, I kind of switched to Nintendo's platform. But the system that I really want to see is definitely Dreamcast.
Ooh, that system, I mentioned earlier that I thought it'd be hard to emulate, but compared to the Saturn, it has been done. They did it on the PS3, and I think they also did it for PC, a few of the games like Sonic Adventure and Space Channel 5.
I mean, here's the thing, like, the Saturn, we all know, is probably never going to come to Virtual Console because of the architecture Sega put into it, just the fact that they stuck 2 gosh dang CPUs and there was like, told developers to essentially figure it out. The Dreamcast has more streamlined architecture and they kind of fixed that with it. It's one of the consoles that in history, it's that cult console that a lot of people love, and I never really got to experience a lot of the games that are on there, unfortunately. I mean, the only Dreamcast, I'm going to put that in quotations, game that I played is Sonic Adventure, but I played the Gamecube port, so I guess it's cheating. But I would actually love if Sega released some of the obscure Dreamcast games on the Switch, just because of the portability factor, and considering GameCube games are rumored to be on the Virtual Console, I mean, if Nintendo can get GameCube games running and working, then I think Dreamcast should be able to work as well.
True, but that begs the question, because like outside Sega's games, there wasn't that many, like there were lots of homebrew games, but there weren't many exclusives that were really memorable for the Dreamcast, because like most of the memorable ones, like I believe Sonic Adventure, Space Channel, and a few of other games, they got re-released already for dozens of systems. But I do think there's a few obscure games that I don't even know about that would be worth re-releasing. But I think the Saturn has more exclusives, but as you said, the stupid GPU problem locks it out from ever seeing the light of day.
Right, I think one game that was on the Dreamcast, I don't know if it got re-released, was Power Stone and Power Stone 2.
Oh yeah, that was like the Power Stone collection on the PSP.
Oh, okay. But still, I mean, it would be nice for it to be re-released on consoles. So, I mean, that would be a really nice way to bring that back. And I think maybe Street Fighter 3 had like an exclusive version on the Dreamcast. I don't know if that was re-released on Xbox Live or PlayStation Network, but
PlayStation Network got Street Fighter 3 Online Edition, but I don't think it included the bonus modes from the Dreamcast version.
Okay.
Same with King of Fighters 2000, which probably is going to be re-released on the Switch because of, you know, Hamster and the Neo Geo Street Fighter clones, even though King of Fighters is actually pretty good. But King of Fighters 2000 had exclusive content on the Dreamcast and PS2. On PS2, because I owned that version, it had a party battle mode where it was like it was the endless mode in most other fighting games. And the arcade version does not have that, just has arcade mode and multiplayer. So I think releasing some of those home ports would be a neat little thing for, well, the Dreamcast to do if they got Dreamcast games on it, because not all games are the same, as the Game Boy Advance ports of NES games proved to us on the Wii U.
Right, but yeah, we'll definitely have to see where the Dreamcast goes. I'm hoping for maybe Sega to pull through, but I think Genesis is probably more likely.
Knowing Sega, they'll probably re-release the Genesis until the end of time, but hey, at least it's not those awful plug-and-plays.
True. So anyways, what's your number 2?
Well, I was gonna say TurboGrafx because I love the TurboGrafx, it would probably be number 1, but I already mentioned how much I want that before, so let's just say that's an alternate number 1 and go with something a bit, well, new. As I mentioned and hinted at earlier, I'd love to see the Master System re-released, but with more games than the Wii U, well, Wii U got none, and the Wii, because the Wii only got like 20 worldwide, and most of them weren't good. But if they release the Master System, I'd like to see more games like Maze Hunter 3D, Ninja Gaiden, the Shinobi games, except for Cyber Shinobi, that sucks. The Sonic games, of course, Alex Kidd, and Double Dragon, lots of arcade ports. Really, there's lots of good games in the Master System. Penguin Land's another good one. So, the Master System itself would be good, but what would make it even better is if, like with the Sega 3D Classics collection, they added the FM sound versions to all the games.
I've heard some of the FM sound soundtracks. Oh my gosh, dude. They're amazing.
Like East, I'm a big East fan, and East, The Vanished Omens had like a PSG soundtrack, and it sounded a lot like the PC-88 original, but because the PSG versions was it was weak compared to even the old computers, it sounded high-pitched, and if you put headphones in, it'll make your ears hurt, but the FM soundtrack sounds really funky, and I like it.
Yeah, definitely. It has that techno feel. I mean, not as much as the Sega Genesis, which was synonymous with techno music, but it definitely has that clear vibe, and you can tell there's more instruments in it. It's overall really, really good. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the ROM hack they did for Sonic the Hedgehog on Master System, but someone actually did an FM sound version of the soundtrack and hacked it into the game. And I tell you, go check it out on YouTube, guys. It is amazing. I'm not gonna link it for various reasons, but
I can vouch for that because the Sonic Master System game, in my opinion, it's the best Sonic game. It's better than the Genesis games, except for CD. CD is my favorite Sonic game, the 2011 version. But I like the Game Gear and Master System versions a lot more than any of the Genesis games because I feel they have better level design. So I love to see the Genesis Sonic games re-released. So they could also re-release the Game Gear games, but the 3DS also got pretty much all the major Game Gear games, even the good obscure ones like Crystal Warriors and Shining Force. But yeah, I think Master System with FM sound would be good, though I will say that I would like the option to change it if available, because some games only have PSG soundtracks. But some FM soundtracks like Phantasy Star have a lot of weird noises that sound like farting at weird times, like the battle theme in my opinion, the battle theme in Phantasy Star for the FM sounds atrocious.
I guess we can go on to number ones now. My number one pick, I think a lot of people are going to be surprised about. It's probably one of the best systems of all time. A lot of people love this system, and it's awesome. My number one pick is the Tiger R-Zone. Cricket.
The Ozone! Oh, I'm Mark from Classic Game Room, and I'm gonna take you to the Shadow Realm known as the Ozone!
Shoutouts to Lord Carnage, by the way. So we're not fanboying. We swear. We swear. I respect the heck out of Mark, dude. Nice guy. Go check him on YouTube. Go check him out on YouTube. But anyways, my actual number one system is going to be the Nintendo GameCube, which honestly might seem like, okay, dude, it's rumored, why did you include it? The reason why is because it is literally one of the only systems Nintendo has produced that has so many exclusive games that you can't really buy like anywhere else. I mean, just to kind of give a list, I mean, you have, of course, the most well-known one today and is still alive and kicking today is Super Smash Bros. Melee. You can't find, that game has never been re-released, ever. It has been only on the GameCube. Mario Kart Double Dash, has never been re-released. Super Mario Sunshine has never been re-released. Luigi's Mansion has a sequel, but the original has never been re-released. Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2 has never been re-released. I mean, there was that canceled collection that was coming.
A licensed game? I mean, I have a licensed game I'm going to mention my number one, but is the Star Wars GameCube game really that good? It's an American property.
I've heard some really good things about it, but I'm just pointing out that the GameCube is one of the only systems in history to have tons of exclusives on it. That's why a lot of people still go back and play it, because it's that system that you can't really play on anything else. I mean, yes, you can play Melee, Super Mario Sunshine on the Wii U via mods, but if you're a casual consumer and you're looking to buy your kid Super Smash Bros. Melee because he wants to get into the competitive scene, you're going to be drove up by prices on eBay.
Definitely.
And essentially, it would do Nintendo no harm to re-release it. Of course, I thought they had a missed opportunity with the Wii U, but with the Switch, they have an even better opportunity because it's a system that's basically selling well. They could clean up a lot of the resolution things. They could actually patch some of the games with like widescreen support, which I doubt they'll do, but they could do so much with it, and it would definitely help more to re-release them than not to.
Yeah, people always say that the analog triggers will kill the GameCube Virtual Console, but like, the Lure Gamer rumor said Smash Bros. Melee was one of the first games that would come out, and it's not confirmed yet. In all honesty, I'm kind of doubting it because it said it would be on launch day and it didn't happen. Now we hear about the online service in 2018. But if Melee came out, which I also thought wouldn't happen because of the Perfect Dark and GoldenEye bomb that's still in the game's code, the top secret motion sensor bomb, because WarWare owns that and it's based off a movie. At least I think Perfect Dark's a movie. Wait, no, that's GoldenEye. But yeah, the analog triggers is often considered to be the reason why GameCube games will never see a re-release. But to be honest, most analog trigger games just have them at different strengths, and they could just, incorporate that into HD Wumble somehow, or use the triggers. Because even though you could combine the triggers or use the touchscreen to adjust the lengths and strengths of the analog pushes.
One thing Nintendo did very well, which is the loader that plays GameCube games on Wii U, is if you have a digital trigger, you can actually hold the L button, which is not actually... you could hold the L button and then the ZL and ZR buttons, which are emulating the GameCube L and R buttons. When you held the L button and pressed the ZR button, it would emulate like the half press of the GameCube analog R button. So essentially, you could have like a button combination to make it seem like it's pressing halfway. It's a lot of people I think miss that, and it's something definitely I think Nintendo would attempt to do.
Yeah, like all sorts of rumors, fake and real, have said that they're gonna make it a menu optional. They're gonna just cut it out. And honestly, it's just a weird mess, honestly. I grew up with the GameCube. GameCube helped me out through rough times in my life next to Game Boy Advance. I love the system. But I don't know, I just don't want to get my hopes up because I was excited to get Smash Bros. Melee and lots of import games on launch day, and I got Sodam and a few Neo Geo games. So be wary because the rumor may be false, but Lure Gamer reported it, and Lure Gamer normally never messes up with rumors. Most of the time they get their stuff spot on. And I think even, I don't want to get yelled at on Twitter by him, but I believe that Dr. Cupcake's Liam Unseen64 guy who basically had a source gaming... Yeah, Liam Robertson. I was going to say Nelson, and I thought that was wrong. But he did a source gaming discussion. I didn't listen to all of it, but I think didn't he talk about, like, the Lure Gamer rumor basically having some weight to it?
Right. We even reported from our own sources, Push Dustin actually, stating that Melee was going to be released on the Virtual Console. And, of course, he wouldn't publish it without checking. So...
Yeah, he's Source Gaming. Source, S-O-U-R-C-E. Source is good.
Nah, dude, we sauce gaming. We sauce gaming. We prefer ketchup and mustard for our sources.
What about Origin Gaming?
Oh yeah, I remember that, the meme Twitter account that we did, but yeah, that was a funny fools. But anyways, we're down to your number one. What is your number one pick?
Alright, this is gonna shock probably you and a lot of people, especially with some of the games I'm gonna suggest that are probably impossible, but my number one most wanted Virtual Console system is the WonderSwan Color/Crystal, because they're the same architecture. The reason why is because Gunpei Yokoi, the maker of the Game Boy, made the WonderSwan, and it was his last project before he died of an accident. So I think for Nintendo fans, it would be great to see his final legacy on a Nintendo system. The problem is a lot of the popular games were Digimon and anime based, and most of my picks for games I want to see from the WonderSwan are those games. One of my favorite games I think I'd love to see come to the system would be the Inuyasha trilogy of anime games. Inuyasha Kagome no Yume Nikki Inuyasha Kogome no Sengoku Nikki and Inuyasha Funin Imaki, which were free action-adventure RPGs based on Inuyasha. They also made some Digimon games that were popular back in the day on the the Wonder Swan Color, and I believe they even made some Mega Man games for it. Like, they made a Mega Man base game on the Neo Geo, I keep saying Neo Geo, on the Wonder Swan Black and White, and also they made a Mega Man EXE, 2 of them, one of which was a Game Boy Advance port, the Battleship Challenge, and the other was a platformer for the Swan Crystal. But yeah, there's also Final Fantasy games on it, Final Fantasy 1, 2, and 4, and Romancing Saga. A lot of good games on that thing. They're mostly ports, but the original exclusives are very well obscure and kind of like unknown. And because it's Gunpei Yokoi's last stand, I think Nintendo fans, at least, they should deserve to see some of the games that are likely to come out, like probably the Puyo Puyo ports and some of the arcade ports, and the Final Fantasy games, and Bandai's games that aren't Gundam or Inuyasha or Digimon.
Right, it would definitely be an interesting system, nonetheless, because I think there's a pretty cool like cult following behind it, and I think a lot of people would severely enjoy it. So I mean, I think that's the whole premise of this. Nintendo is trying to like give games to their audience that is, you know, a lot more obscure than you might think, but would definitely help drive up sales.
I've been meaning to import the Wonder Swan Crystal or Color for some time now to play the Inuyasha games. But even though I don't think those games would come to the Virtual Console, I do think the Wonder Swan, I'd love to see it, and I'd buy all the games day one if it came out.
Definitely. I think that would be really, really neat. So anyways, do you have any final thoughts on the Nintendo Switch Virtual Console?
Well, let's see. Well, can we talk about Arcade Archives, which is what some people consider the current Virtual Console for the system? Just a quick recap of what we have, and maybe what... It'll be short.
I mean, basically, yeah, go ahead. I think we do need that recap, so...
So yeah, for those who don't know, which is probably easy because Nintendo doesn't mention it, Hamster Corporation has ported over their Arcade Archive series from the PS4 to Nintendo Switch and Xbox One. And Nintendo Switch is only getting Neo Geo games along with the Xbox One, but the PS4 has normal real arcade games like Haunted Castle, Gradius, lots of Konami, Ninja games, and even one Sega game, Wonder Boy. And their library is filled with obscure arcade hits that I think would be perfect for the Switch. But so far we are stuck with Neo Geo games, and the NVS versions, not the home ports that have extra content. Which means that a lot of the games we have on the Nintendo Switch eShop are Street Fighter ripoffs. But granted, the games they picked out for the launch day and some of the follow-up weeks have been the best by most Neo Geo fans. We got King of Fighters 98 and 99, the advanced King of Fighters games people love. We got Waku Waku 7, a Sunsoft game that's known for being a parody mocking the whole fighting game craze. And we even got Geru Mark of the Wolves this month, which is, as I said earlier, one of the best fighting games in the entire system according to many people. But we also got some shovelware in the form of the original Fatal Fury, World Heroes Perfect, and coming soon, Fatal Fury 2 as announced by Japanese Nintendo blog. That blog, Japanese Nintendo, they just confirmed that Magical Drop 2, some Data East games, Fatal Fury 2, and Metal Slug 2 are coming to the Nintendo Switch. And I'm kind of sad that we are stuck with Neo Geo games, because if the Nintendo Switch Virtual Console is indeed being replaced by the online service, we're going to be stuck with lots of Street Fighter clones and dull, boring games until they will decide to go on to the real Arcade Archive series. And they did say in an interview before the Switch launched that they want to release the original Arcade Archive series if the Neo Geo ones do well. And I think they are doing well from what Hamster has been saying.
Right, exactly. Although I think a lot of people do have differing opinions on the Neo Geo, so I just think it naturally depends on their perspective. I'm actually looking forward to some of the Neo Geo games because I haven't played them, but I don't know. I mean, I think it boils down to what you like. So
I bought a few of them. Out of all the ones I bought so far, I thought Alpha Mission 2 would be my favorite because it looked super awesome and it looked like Xevious on crack. But it's so boring and repetitive, and getting a high score is too hard even for the high score mode. So I recommend Blazing Star instead, which is a 1998 3D side-scrolling shooter that's very reminiscent of TurboGrafx-16 shooters. And as I just mentioned, I love that system, so Blazing Star is a thumbs up. Shock Troopers is also another thumbs up, and I hear the sequel is coming out in 2 weeks or so on the Nintendo Switch eShop. But, the original is considered to be the better game. Sengoku 1 is also coming to the Nintendo Switch, but that's mediocre. I recommend waiting for Sengoku 3, which is considered to be one of the best beat-em-ups on the Neo Geo. And even though there's lots of Street Fighter clones, there's not many Final Fight clones for some reason. But Sengoku 3 I hear is a great game, so I do think I'm gonna check it out when it comes out. Hopefully it does.
I guess my final thoughts on just the Nintendo Switch Virtual Console as a whole is that I'm hoping Nintendo does not screw up this time, and I'm hoping Nintendo just... The biggest problem, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this because we're over an hour long, but they need to dramatically increase the output at which these titles are released. That is the biggest problem they had.
Definitely. Though in my opinion, I thought the Wii U Virtual Console, I'm gonna get killed for saying this, it was much better than the Wii's, because again, it had more features and offers and cool stuff to do, and the games were quality. But Japan got a better lineup. They got more cool imports, they got some exclusives, they got MSX games, I'm still jealous of them, and they got a ton of TurboGrafx games, but thankfully Konami's trying to fix that up late in the life cycle because of some ESRB ratings that just came out. Right. So, yeah, I think the Switch Virtual Console, honestly, it just needs to come out in a reasonable time. Hopefully Gamecube and Nintendo 64 games are announced this E3. If not, I'm gonna probably scream of agony from having to play all the fighting 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 5 million. And then when I'm an old man, if the Nintendo Switch Virtual Console isn't out by then, I'll be playing all the fighting 2095.
That is definitely a bold statement, and that is something you're probably gonna have to live up to. So I will be looking from the future, looking forward to that. I will be watching, I will be waiting, and I will be betting my money.
And I'll be sure to do what I always do in every single fighting game I hate. I just spam Ryu's Hadouken motion and see if the character copies his Hadouken. Because if they do, that's a sign that's a Street Fighter ripoff, even if it tries to hide it.
So anyways, SeaFoamGaming, where can they find you at?
They can find me at youtube.com/SeaFoamGaming, where I have a YouTube channel and make some retrospective videos covering my personal periods of abuse growing up, and also some games I grew up with. I've done a retrospective on the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series on the Wii U, the Pokemon Mini, and several other games from my childhood and recent times. I'm also the owner of the SeaFoam Gaming review website at www.seafoamgaming.com, where you can look at reviews and opinion articles of some games I get for review or buy myself. I try to get feedback, and I'm brutally honest, as this discussion probably revealed with me and the Neo Geo, but I'm a nice guy. You can approach me, and I'm sure we can be good friends if you decide to pay me a visit.
Right, I mean, when he means pay you a visit, you have to pay him cash, obviously, through PayPal. Alright. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. Be sure to follow us on our social media pages, including our Facebook and Twitter accounts. Be sure to also support us on Patreon if you want to receive exclusive perks. Everything will be linked in the description below, including SeaFoam Gaming's YouTube channel and website. We hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we will see you in the next one.